Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to your Friday edition of Across the Pond. We are coming to you our third Friday in a row, which is
Second Friday in a row,
second.
idiot. Yeah,
No,
see, I don't want to interrupt. Second Friday in a row. We've been missing for the
second.
previous.
Oh, you said third off air just now. But anyways, this is a big achievement for us because Avi's such a flake and he's so popular and he's just always got
Oh, man.
different things going on. He's like, I'm in a different country, I'm in a different time zone. I'm at John Henry's house having dinner. I can't make it tonight.
Oh, he's
All
doing.
sorts of different dates and priorities that he has, but he has allocated some time for us on this Friday afternoon / evening. Shout out to everyone tuning in from across the globe. We are across the pond, but you are across the globe, and we'll be going across topics for you. So we'll be sticking with the plan and the theme. As you can see, we're going to be talking about Manuel Ugarte today, Alexis Mac Allister as well, and previewing Monday's clash with Leicester City. Avi, you wanted to talk about this off air. You mentioned it. What are you feeling like for dinner tonight? The people want to know what you would like to have for dinner.
Two things.
Mhm.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, Evan. Loving the
Hello.
moustache.
Thank you.
In remembrance of Mario. Looks
That's
great.
That's two things already. Is there a third thing?
Yeah. No, I fancy sushi tonight. Haven't had sushi for
Sushi.
about a good 2-3 weeks. Yeah. Got a nice
You know what I
spot.
love? It's not sushi, but I get it in the sushi aisle at the grocery stores. I get a poke bowl, like a Hawaiian poke bowl. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Tuna poke and all that.
Yeah, all that good stuff. I could do that. But as you know, to anybody who cares, it's a big moment for me and Avi here in the States. We have Game 6 of the Warriors versus the Lakers in
Lakers
the
tonight.
NBA Western Conference semi-finals. So we will be preoccupied. We'll be taking our Liverpool hats on, putting our American sports hats on tonight. And I will not be talking to Avi because for some reason he's a Laker fan. I don't know.
I'm a
I don't get
LeBron
it.
fan. I'm
He's a-
loyal to LeBron.
which is
Anyone,
worse than being a
anyone,
Laker fan.
anyone that
It's worse than being a Laker
anyone
fan.
that has an affiliation with Liverpool Football Club, I will support them. Oh, and speaking of John Henry, he has actually sent an invite today for the end of season. He does a barbecue every year in his house in Boston.
And you go, you
And
attend.
I have only been once in the last 4 years, but I will be there in attendance this year. Yeah.
Do you
I
have
will
to
be
like
in
bring food?
Massachusetts. So anyone tuning in from Massachusetts, June, I'll be there. Thank you very much.
So it's like a potluck. Do you like show up with some coleslaw or potato salad, and you're just like, hey John, I brought an appetizer for
He don't bring
everybody.
anything. Everything is catered for. He brings in
Oh,
caterers,
gotcha.
chefs,
I mean, yeah, it
culinary
is a
chefs.
billionaire. It's a
Talking
billionaire
about-
party.
Yeah, creme de la creme. He probably spends more on his barbecue than he does on Liverpool transfers. So
Yeah, I mean, it's surely possible. It's definitely possible. Absolutely. So yeah, so those are the topics today. Avi, let's get straight in to the topic on everybody's mind. Well, on my mind at least. Let's talk about the media roundup, the transfer roundup of Manuel Ugarte. Now, he was linked reliably for the first time within the last week, 2 weeks or so. Some green flags on some of these sources being listed by the Anfield Talk and other publications. But these links have been cooled by recent reports coming from domestic journalists, David Lynch, I believe, Neil Jones, saying that domestic targets are more of the priority. People like MacAllister and Mount today have been name dropped by Paul Joyce as high on Jurgen Klopp's priority list. So although we know that Ugarte is of interest to Liverpool, as Fabrizio Romano and other folks have said, it's now sort of being hinted around that he is perhaps not so high up on the list that he would be a priority. So what we do know, links have been cooled by recent reports. There's other Premier League clubs interested, absolutely, Leeds and Spurs to name a few. His agent Jorge Mendes has been known to shop the names of his clients around and generate media buzz. The release clause of about 52 million pounds has to be tempting, but is an out and out number 6 like Ugarte is that Klopp's? Is that not a priority profile for Klopp this summer? Is it all about getting dynamic eights into the midfield? What have you made of this last week of Manuel Ugarte media coverage?
Yeah, it seems to be picking up, and when things pick up regarding certain players, I do extensively start watching them. as much as possible as I can on YouTube. And I know you've been a massive fan. I think I say that every week now, every show, even on Sundays, I keep saying Evan, Ugarte, Moby, Ugarte. It does seem as if 50 million, 60 million is the ballpark figure that will get the deal done. Sporting was something in the last 48 hours was suggesting that they could take us to court because they're mid-season. Well, they're not quite in mid-season. I think there's only 3-4 games left in that league too. So we're towards the end, and we know this gets done. This gets done in terms of players, agents start talking to the various clubs when they feel that they could be, leaving. For example, Ugarte leaving Sporting. I think Ruben Amorim said that 60 million. There's we feel that his agent is sort of luring him to other clubs in the Premiership. Or out of Europe. Jurgen Klopp said today that, of course, he's had talks with players in his pre-conference. Pretty sure that's what he said. I mean, it was around 1:30 a.m. my time when I was watching in bed his press conference. So I'm pretty sure that's what the gist was. I think I think a six has got to be a priority. I know there's been links with Florentino Luis, Manuel Ugarte, another all players that play in a six. We have got Fabinho, who's started to pick it up. Nowhere near his best, but he has started to play well. Maybe because there's more runners around him. Obviously, Bedic, he's still 18. So I think a Ugarte is a priority. I've always said we need 4 midfielders in this summer, Evan. 3 the mustard. People are saying the likes of Mount, Gravenberch, and say MacAllister. Those 3 are the ones that do come in. They're not statement signings for me. I still think all 3 of them are coming on potential. Yes, MacAllister is more of the accomplished one. At 24, 25 years old, World Cup winner. Yes, he's done it in the Premiership this season, 11 goals, I think, which is a great return for him. And he's got everything to his sort of armory. He can play as a 6 as well, 8, a progressive midfielder. Is very impressive. But we do need a statement signing in the middle of the park. I'm not going to mention his name, but you know who I'm talking about. Or a Caicedo, I think that's a statement signing. And look, I'm happy that we are prioritizing the midfield area finally after 2-3 years. But a 6 is a priority for me. Yourself?
I go back and forth. It's not so much that I absolutely think a 6 is a priority. It's just that I'm spooked a bit by the decline of Henderson and Fabinho. Bajcetic is very raw, and that's a lot to shoulder. A teenager with, starting 6 role. It's an infamously difficult role to play. Holding midfield might be perhaps the most difficult role to play consistently well. There was a comment here I just wanted to touch on before I go in. Kieran Dolan says, got my son watching as well tonight. Thank you for letting us know, Kieran. I'll have Abby watch his mouth. He's got a bit of a sailor vocabulary. If you will, so we'll try to keep it PG rated tonight, as we usually do. But shout out to everybody tuning in, no matter where you are. Avi, I'm a Ugarte ultra. Me and Moby feel very strongly about this guy, as do plenty of other people. We're not alone in this regard. He is an out and out 6, but he's not. You shouldn't think of Gattuso or Ndidi. He's not all just about ball winning. It's about what he can do on the ball as well.
Can I just interject quickly? Sorry, I don't.
Yeah.
I do want you to say your view, but of all 6s that you could have mentioned, Gattuso, I get that, fair enough. But to mention Ndidi,
no, I wasn't.
I'm going to mind my language here. I'm going to mind my language here. But where in the F has that name come into?
Let me explain. You bring up Gattuso as the ultimate world class example of the old school ball winner, and then I bring up Ndidi as a more contemporary example of an out and out ball winner. Not supposed to be on the same level as Gattuso or even Ugarte. The point was to just plant the profile in people's minds, on different tiers, obviously. But I do bring up Ndidi because Ndidi tends to win the ball back in his own area, in front of his own box. That's where he gets all of his stats inflated. Ugarte's winning the ball back everywhere, which I think makes him tailor-made for a team that is still a counter-pressing team, even in this new shape. Counter-pressing isn't going anywhere. I think that's one constant we can say about Jurgen Klopp. It's been a constant since day one, and it'll be a constant on his final day at the club as well. So although I don't think any of the top tier domestic journalists have poured cool water on Ugarte explicitly. You know, we were told explicitly Liverpool are moving on from Alisson Becker. Liverpool are not interested in Thiago. We were told this explicitly by the domestic journalists. Nobody has trashed the Ugarte links yet. It's still mainly foreign noise, reliable foreign noise, but foreign noise for now. So this one is something to keep an eye on. But it does seem, if we are listening to the domestic high tier journalists, it does seem like Premier League experience is being valued or prioritized a little bit more, which is an age-old debate. How much does it really matter? It certainly affects price tags and wages and things like that, but how much does it really matter? I think it can only help you. It certainly can't hurt you, but how much should you value it is another question altogether. Ahmed says, Evan, what would be your 3 ideal midfield profiles you would target for the summer? Presumably, we don't consider MacAllister to be imminent. I like a ball winner like Ugarte. I think as much as we've struggled to maintain possession this season, I think we've also struggled to win it back. I think in the first half of the season, surely the thing that I thought dropped off the cliff the most amongst a host of things was our ability to win 50-50s in midfield. And that is Manuel Ugarte's bread and butter, not just in midfield, defense and attack in every phase of play. So I like the idea of this floating ball winner that Ugarte is. Also, I do like the idea of sort of a attack-minded 8, sort of like MacAllister or Mount. I consider them to be somewhat similar. So I like that profile as well. And then, of course, how could you not like a true box-to-box profile, a guy who excels in every single phase? Jude Bellingham, and then to a lesser extent in the same profile, a guy like Ryan Gravenberch, maybe Nicolo Barella is a guy who sits in between those two in terms of quality. So I do like a true box-to-box. I know it's a boring answer, but I do think our midfield has suffered enough to the point where I think any and all profiles would be welcome. And I find the debate on Twitter about what profile is going to unlock Liverpool. I find it to be a very cyclical debate because it feels like, and I think I speak for most of the fan base, that we could use a little bit of everything in midfield. So that's been the latest on Ugarte. Avi mentioned him briefly. The links that don't seem to be cooling down, they seem to only be.
Just to put your cojones on the line, you think we get this done?
Manuel Ugarte?
Yeah.
My gut says no, unfortunately. Just because it is a release clause. This isn't the case for all release clauses, but most release clauses in European football require a larger than normal amount to be paid up front. That can obviously be negotiated. Whether Sporting want to negotiate that, I'm not quite sure. Whether Liverpool feel they can put so much money up front for one guy in a summer where they feel they might have to spread their money around. That was the public stance on walking away from Jude Bellingham. So my gut right now is leaning towards no, but I definitely think it's one to keep an eye on because there's no shortage of options this summer, and I don't think we're gonna sit and wait around. So if someone's available, then we will go after them. Let's talk about MacAllister because these aren't going anywhere, Avi. These links are intensifying every single day. There's a new reliable journalist, whether it's in Argentina, whether it's in England, whether it's somewhere in Europe. There's a different reliable person seemingly every day sticking their neck out and saying that Liverpool are leading the race or Liverpool are extremely interested. What we know for sure based on these public reports is that we've made an offer to his representation, his agent, which is his dad in this case. The quoted prices seem to have a wide range. That's the one thing that I think nobody truly knows. It seems because I've seen the latest reports today said 70 million. I've seen people saying starting at 50, rising to 55. The quoted prices have a wide range, so I think we'll have to wait and see about that. But he fits the Premier League experience moniker that has been parroted around by the local journalists, I should say, saying this is what Klopp's prioritizing Premier League experience. But he seems to be the furthest along. And I'll pose the question at the end to you. Is he Liverpool's priority? And do you think this is likely going to be the first summer signing?
it does seem as though there is a friendly agreement between the owners of Brighton and McAllister's agent, you would say, who is his father, that a certain amount of money will sort of trigger McAllister and will trigger the fee that they're looking for Brighton, and he will be, so he will sign hopefully for Liverpool. I think he's one that at the beginning of the season, and I know he's been around for 2-3 years, but it's actually this season where he's caught the eye. And for me, he's a very, very good player. He's versatile, and I think that's so key in when Klopp and the coaches plan for next season. They look at versatility. We've seen the midfielders that they've brought in previously. They like players that are comfortable in all kind of positions of the midfield three. But next season, it will probably be, if we're going towards this 3-2-2-3 system, or whichever way they go forward, he fits the bill in every range. And he's had an impressive season again, World Cup winner. We have mentioned him numerous times. I think he probably is likely, like you've mentioned there, the first summer signing. But I don't think nothing gets confirmed until the season's over. So a lot of outlets from South America, reliable outlets, same outlets similar to the way Darwin Núñez news was filtering through last summer. In last January, when Diaz was coming through, it was all coming from the South American region. And I think McAllister, the news that comes from the news that's filtering out of South America, Argentina in particular, does seem to have some substance to it. And obviously everyone out here, back home in England, the journalists are very coy. They don't want to say anything. They don't want to ruin their reputation with Liverpool and whatnot. We know how Klopp can get grumpy with some of the journalists. I won't name names. But it does seem as though Alexis Mac Allister will be the first signing. I think he's a shoo-in for City, to be honest. If Gundogan does explore other options this summer, I think he would be a perfect fit for them. I'm just hoping that we've done enough groundwork, legwork to get this over the line. And whatever the fee, Evan, I don't want to talk about fees too much, because this summer is not about us wheeling and dealing and watching our pennies. If FSG are serious about taking this club forward, and hopefully with the imminent investment coming in from outside investors who are willing to invest in Liverpool, then we shouldn't be talking about pennies and penny pinching. He needs to be a priority. 60, 70, 50 million, whatever it is, get him done, because he elevates us to another level next season.
I agree with you.
But he wouldn't be my first choice Brighton midfielder.
I know who your first choice Brighton midfielder would be, and I think most people would take Moises Caicedo, and I would too. That's no disrespect to Alexis Mac Allister, but rather just speaking to the strides that Caicedo has made this season. I hear you on, this is not the summer to be penny pinching or worrying about whether someone's overpriced or not. I hear you and I agree. But at the same time, there's something that is also simultaneously true, which is what little we know about Liverpool's transfer strategy that has come from reliable sources is the buzz around Liverpool's apparent walking away from Jude Bellingham. And the public stance was it didn't make sense in a summer where they had to spread the money around a little bit more. It didn't make sense to spend so much money on Jude Bellingham. So that's what little we know. That what little the club is willing to reveal to the public, they have revealed that. So in the sense that does speak to not penny pinching, that's the wrong phrase, but it does speak to we need to spend our money wisely here. And if we were thinking that Jude Bellingham was at least 20 to 30 million pounds overpriced minimum, then we could make a similar case to other players to a lesser extent. Do you see what I mean? Like both things are true. It is not the summer to penny pinch, but we do know that Liverpool walked away from Jude Bellingham apparently because of he cost too much money.
But my issue with that is, for the last 2 summers, we've kind of starved ourselves in the transfer market.
We have.
Yes, Diaz came in, Núñez came in yesterday, but we also recouped well as well. Like, again, I don't want to get frustrated. I don't want to say something insulting, because we will keep it PG today. But like, what have we been doing? Like, where is that money? Yes, wages, I get that. Agents' fees, yes, I get that. But listen, we are one of the biggest clubs in the world. Our revenue is incredible. We need the owners, if they don't want to get investment, to loosen, whatever it takes. You can work in a deficit. You can work in debt. United have done, but United have done it with those substances. That's why they're not successful. But
Yeah.
you can operate in such a way that yes, there will be like a 200-300 million pound sort of running debt. But that goes towards player, and the better players that you bring in, the more success it brings, especially when you've got Jurgen Klopp at the helm, right? So I get what you mean. We will be smart. Klopp's saying it as well in the press that listen, players, without Champions League, if they don't want to come, that's fine. We move on to the next target. We only want players that want to play for the club first and foremost. Forget about which competition we're in. I get that. And yes, he said, if clubs are going to price out certain players that we've looked at, we will move on to the next target. In previous seasons, that hasn't been the case. We've always tried to get Klopp's number one choices, the Van Dijks, the Alissons, the Naby Keitas, and we've always had to pay a little bit of a premium.
Yeah.
With Jude Bellingham, I don't know why that has stopped. I'm not going to say any more on the Jude saga. I still have a little bit of faith.
You have said plenty, haven't you, Abby?
I've said, of course, I've literally laid it on the line, and I'll look like an idiot if it doesn't come off. But I don't believe that's totally dead, regardless of what Madrid are filtering out through their reliable outlets and the ones that they pay off. Let's see what happens at the end of the season with Dortmund and Liverpool and Madrid and City in regards to Jude Bellingham.
It seems like most of our reported targets are playing for teams that still currently have something to play for. Dortmund being a good example in the midst of a title race. Brighton are still competing for Europe, European places. Other clubs competing for other things. It will probably be at least another few weeks before serious rumblings start rumbling.
Three emojis there. Mohamed Kibria, he might be an agent or he might be someone in the know. Is that something that we could maybe get excited over? A Uruguayan flag, a handshake, I believe, and time capsule?
I can't see the emojis. It just looks like a bunch of black bars.
You're running on an old computer then. Okay. It's a Uruguayan flag. It looks like the handshake and there's a time capsule.
Oh, no, it's because I'm on Google Chrome. Anyways, yeah, I mean, sure, I would definitely hope there's a Uruguayan midfielder about to join. That would that would make me feel very good. But back to MacAllister real quickly. I do think he's a player who excels in multiple phases. This is not someone who would look out of water dropping deep to collect the ball. He's not someone who looks out of water playing with his back to goal. He's not someone who looks uncomfortable with having a multitude of choices in terms of where to distribute the ball. I think he's confident he makes the right decision. And we need that sort of self-assuredness, that sort of self-belief. It's a nice mental trait that I think Thiago succeeds really well with. This obviously to a lesser extent. But Alexis Mac Allister as our statement signing, the guy we shell out the most dough for, I don't think many people can be too disappointed with that. And I do agree with you in the sense that I think he fits the Gundogan role at City better than he fits whatever our midfield shape is right now, because it's a brand new system and whatever it will be in 3-4 months time. So I definitely think we will be relying on that groundwork that we have apparently been laying very, very much to get this over the line. And hopefully we get some even more developments on this in the next few weeks. But like you said, and like it's been reported by Paul Joyce today, when the season ends on May 28th, that's when I expect things to really kick off. I think that period in between the season officially ending around Europe and the beginning of our training camp, which I believe usually happens towards the end of June. Is that correct, Abby? That's usually when training.
July, I believe. I think
first week of July.
They got a report back by the 7th, I think.
Gotcha. And with a lack of international tournaments this summer, I do believe things will move quickly as they usually do.
Just on something, I know people have mentioned it on Twitter as well that I don't, and this is my personal opinion, by the way. I don't believe MacAllister is in place of Mason Mount. I think they're two separate deals that the club are working on. I think Mason Mount is a hugely favored player by Klopp, especially, and that's something that they are definitely 100% pursuing. And I think we are very, very confident of getting that done.
And Paul Joyce,
regardless of Pochettino coming in.
Yeah, and Paul Joyce has echoed those same thoughts today in his article for the Times as well, citing MacAllister and Mount as top of the list in terms of Jurgen Klopp's priority. And even though they are kind of similar players, Avi, I think Klopp wants two players like that. I think he wants two forward-thinking eights to sort of complement this new system, this new shape. And they would have complemented the old 4-3-3 as well. I could see them fitting in that shape as well. I think these players are very good.
Just I've got something for you. Okay, you can't go with the question. I've got something for you though afterwards. Go with
no. Please tell me.
Little murmurs from the Milan side of Italy. He's been a player that's been mentioned in Pep Linders' book. If you read the book, I'm sure you have, because you're a big advocate of Pep Linders.
It's a good book, to be honest. I liked it.
Nicola Barella.
Yes. I'm glad you reminded me, because I definitely did want to talk about him in the context. I do think he fits that third profile that I was talking about earlier when I think it was Ahmed asked me what my three preferred profiles were. A true box-to-box, a guy who excels in every single phase. I think MacAllister's kind of close to that. Maybe not as much. Barella is, I think, exquisite. I think he's a fantastic player. And that being said, guys, please, I am not a Serie A expert. I do not get a chance to watch Serie A all that often. However, I do watch quite a bit of the Italian clubs when they are playing in the Champions League. And what I've seen from Barella has been extraordinary. He had a pass against Milan on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. Wednesday. Sorry. It was like a back heel layoff. It was a fake shot that he sort of like pump faked it, and it became like a first time back heel pass to Mkhitaryan, and my jaw just dropped. I was blown away at the quality. And here's the thing. I think he makes a lot of sense if you just look at him as a player. But I think where you hit roadblocks with the idea of Barella to Liverpool, Avi, and I think you would agree with this, is the logistics of it. Italian player, homegrown kid for Inter Milan, Italian player coming to the Premier League. It's not a well-trodden path, is it? Typically, the Milan clubs and Juventus have been good at keeping the Italian talent in Italy, usually most of the time. That being said, the Serie A is not what it used to be. Inter are not what they used to be, despite having a good season in Europe. And it's known that Linders and Klopp really like this guy. However, the price could get astronomical to try to pluck the homegrown kid away from a team where he surely would probably be captain of one day. Do you agree with the logistical complications of that, Avi?
Yeah, I think Italians, especially in recent times, don't seem to travel well, and we haven't had the greatest experience of Italians. I'm thinking Andreas De Sena, Alberto Aquilani, and more recently Fabio Barini and Mario Balotelli. So our track record of signing Italians isn't great, but Nicola Barella, he's got that flair about him. He's not your typical Italian midfielder as well. He's got a lot of creativity. He's got a great engine. He's got skill. He's got that aggressiveness of an Italian. I think if Jude is 100% not attainable, Evan, and we want to be amongst the big boys, this guy's box office. Nicola Barella is box office, and at 25, it's a perfect age. Yes, there's the skeptics who will say, players, we've done this before. The Italian experiment hasn't worked. I totally understand that. But I think he would be an exception. I think he would be an absolute, prince at Liverpool, at the heart of that midfield. But again, like you said, loyalties. He is a Inter Milan boy through and through, so he might just feel that, no, I'm happy here. I want to see her. And you can't blame players for that. Italians are very loyal. De Rossi could have played anywhere around the world at one point, but he stuck with Roma. Francesco Totti, greats who just never wanted to get away from Italy. Francesco Totti was linked with Real Madrid season in, season out, but he just
could have gone anywhere. That guy, I mean, he could have had his pick of clubs. So I think largely speaking, the Serie A has been able to retain the elite Italians. Obviously, guys like Balotelli and Jorginho, Aquilani were allowed to go, but typically,
Jorginho is Brazilian. Come on, you can't say he's Italian. Only because he pays for.
So I mean, I'm just looking at the badge on the shirt. Colin Bell asks, What do you guys think of Elliott and Carvalho's future with the imminent arrival of all of these midfielders? We were going to touch on that today, and I think we might as well, seeing as Colin has posed the question now. Here's the thing. We can have a conversation about Elliott because he's a guy. We actually have a sample size of him playing in midfield. We've actually seen that Klopp thinks of him as a midfielder, so there's a conversation to be had there. Carvalho. I mean, why did we even get him? I mean, is he seen as a front three player? Is he seen as a midfield three player? Is he seen as a in between? Is he a false nine project? We don't know because there's not a sample size to work off of, unfortunately. So sorry, Colin. There's not really much to speak to in terms of Fabio, other than he should probably get a loan move this summer if he's not fancied by Klopp and Linders. Let's at least retain some of his value. Harvey Elliott, I don't see him getting loaned. I also don't see him being sold. Like taking all of, obviously Avi's less keen on him than I am. I'm a bit of a Harvey Elliott fan, him not so much.
Got a similar hairstyle to him too at the moment.
Yeah. That's what all the young people are doing now. I think, but yeah, taking all of my pro Harvey bias aside, I don't see him departing the club in any capacity this summer. And I do think the new shape, the new interior eights, as people are calling them, I do think that suits him more than maybe an out and out 4-3-3 midfield position for him. And it'll be interesting to see if he can really compete for a spot. I do think we will have some form of European football. I mean, knock on wood, it looks like we'll have at least Europa League football. I knocked on wood, so you can't accuse me of jinxing. So I do think there will be a lot of games to play, and I do think Harvey Elliott will be, the floor of his involvement will be as a squad player. Whether he pushes on and becomes an out-and-out starter in this team, obviously only time will tell. At 19, 20 years old, he's got a lot of time to do it. And he's definitely a polarizing player. Is that fair to say, Avi? I know you're not a hater. You just, I have a bit of rose-tinted glasses. When I think of Harvey Elliott, you maybe more of a realist view. But would you say he's polarizing for the fan base?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Look, I think I can only recall one good game from him this season. I know he's grabbed a few goals this season, but that United game, I thought, yeah, you know what? He has got the stomach for it. It's a big game. Yes, we won 7-0, but his work rate, everything he was creating, he didn't look out of sorts. Away from home, though, at Old Trafford earlier on the season, he looked lightweight. He didn't look ready. And I'm not here to bash the guy or the kid, or I want him to succeed. I think it's beneficial for the club this summer to send Harvey Elliott and Fabio Carvalho out on loan. I still believe those two can have and carve out a career at Liverpool. I think Fabio Carvalho is a very talented kid, and I think we've let him down more than anything. I know, there were some people who I do find credible sources at Liverpool and on Twitter. They said that Fabio Carvalho didn't want a move in January, and he didn't want to be loaned out. He wanted to fight for his place. And we've seen that that's not worked out for him. Harvey Elliott, I think the coaches are fans of him, but I just don't think he fits in the system, Evan. And I don't want him to be playing 15, 20 minutes next season, or, playing starting once every sort of 4 or 5 games, or just keeping him for the cup games or Europa League games or Champions. If we get Europa League, there's more games. Yes, you can play him. I don't think that's enough for him, especially at his age. Fabio Carvalho and Harvey Elliott are going to be 20 and 21. They need to be playing first team football. Agreed. Regularly at Premiership level. I don't want them to be sent out on Championship level or Europe. Give them a Premiership loan. Any club that's coming up, Burnley, I'm looking at maybe Sunderland if they get promoted, Sheffield United, who are going to get promoted, and they play a bit of, they play football. We need to be sending them out to the correct teams for a successful loan. I want them both to succeed. I'm not a hater. Certainly not. I do want them to succeed, and I think Curtis Jones right now, especially the last 7-8 games, and he's staying fit. There's no injury issues at the moment. Touch wood. I think he's a better fit. His physicality, the height. and the way he's playing and the way he's sort of locked off that left-hand side with Elliott, with Diaz and Jota, I think he's a better fit.
His form commands a place in the team, regardless of what we feel about Curtis Jones in this new system, in this sort of transitionary period for Liverpool as a team and as a midfield. Curtis Jones has been the best midfielder of the last 5 games, no doubt about it. I do think with Harvey Elliott, I respect the view that perhaps he's not a good systematic fit. I respect that. What I don't really respect or have time for is people who just think he's crap. Because for me, he so clearly has an X factor. You know what I mean? He so clearly is brimming with technical quality and the vision and the passing and things like that. So all of that is at a really high level. And my personal opinion is when you have a player like that, you have a responsibility to carve out a place in a system for him, even if physically he might not be the best fit. It's tough though. It's hard to say. I need to cough. You should talk. You should talk.
Just gonna cover a super chat from Atiq Sadiq. Just getting a feeling that FSG will do what they do best. We'll get MacAllister and perhaps Gravenberch, and typically FSG style, we will fall short again. If we fall short again, then there will be repercussions. There need to be serious repercussions if we fall short. And we can't mount a serious title challenge. Evan, you're saying that you'd keep Harvey Elliott, but if we're looking at, and I'm going to name 7-8 random players that I think will be in our midfield, right? You got Fabinho, Stefan Bajicic, you've got Jordan Henderson, Thiago will be kept. Say Alexis Mac Allister, say Mason Mount, say Ugarte, Curtis Jones. That's 8. That's 8 midfielders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyone coming out back from loan, Tyler Morton, I think will be sent out on loan or sold. Leighton Clarkson will be sent out on loan or be sold. And then you're saying Harvey Elliott as your 9th. I'm not saying that's going to be in that order, but
sorry, did you have 3 midfield signings in there?
Yeah, Ugarte, Mount, and I gave it to
MacAllister.
Alexis.
Yeah. So just assuming it's 3 bodies. Here's the thing. I'm gonna bring it back up for a second because I want to look at it. I don't disagree. For me, it has less to do with FSG and more to do with the fact that I think we need to mentally prepare that it won't be as many players as we think it should be, because it never has been. Even in the summer where we signed Alisson, Fabinho, Shaqiri, and the Fekir deal fell through. Even in that summer, people were saying after the Fekir deal fell through and we didn't get another attacker on top of that, people were saying that wasn't good enough. I'm not saying they were whining and complaining, but there was always something more to be had. And Dave Hendrick, who we both know, he always he lists very logically, breaking down, just needs and requirements, and he says we need X amount of players, and I don't disagree because it all makes sense and the logic is watertight. It's also just simultaneously, in my opinion, not entirely realistic that Liverpool get 4 midfielders, an attacker, 2 center backs, a right back. It's just not. I just don't think that's realistic. So I agree with the sentiment that we need to prepare for it to be less than we think it should be. Does that make sense? Because inevitably Klopp will see, whether people agree or not, he will see Harvey Elliott as stepping into a more prominent role. He will see this late season emergence of Curtis Jones as a reason to trust him and perhaps keep him around, whereas before he might have been sold or loaned out.
But Klopp mentioned this word ruthlessness, that he'd have to be ruthless this summer, right? And there's another scenario. Again, there's no substance to it, but if Sunderland get promoted, Jordan Henderson will be 33 in July. His legs have waned. Could there be a parting there? I know Milner's going, and people will say, no, Klopp would never do that. James Milner's gone, Jordan Henderson in the same summer, you're smoking crack or whatever. But there's a scenario there that could play out that Jordan Henderson, it'll be I think it'll be a great sort of parting gift. And it will be great for him to, go and play for Sunderland, his hometown club. We obviously
Listen, it makes
20
sense.
million and whatnot.
It makes sense. It prolongs his Premier League career, gets him more game time, but at the same time, if Edwards was still here and he was still calling the shots, I would say there's a good chance he would have pushed that ahead because, he's obviously his job is to be unromantic about things like that. But I just don't think it's quite realistic to say Klopp would just up and sell his captain during a crucial transitionary period, especially if the logic behind keeping Milner around for all these years, other than him being a decent player, was the off the field changing room impact, the intangibles of that. I don't think he would want to lose Milner and Henderson's impact in that area in the same summer. I think that would just be a step too far for a guy like Jurgen Klopp. So I see the logic behind it, and I do think that door will be open for him for not just Sunderland, the boyhood club, but for a host of clubs coming up and seeking that experience and that leadership in the dressing room. I just don't think this summer will be the summer for it. But what I will say about Henderson is I do think we need to manage his game time. I think a guy like him should be.
He's on around 200K a week.
It's a lot to have. It's for a guy who I think at most these days should be a squad player. That is a lot for a squad player. But again, this is sort of the price of doing business with Jurgen Klopp, right? This is what you pay for. Klopp thinks Henderson is worth that to have him in the dressing room. None of us want to walk away from Klopp, so we make peace with it. You know what I mean? We pick our battles with Jurgen Klopp and the coaches. So yeah,
because I'm thinking further down the line. So say we did sort of action that move and Jordan Henderson goes to Sunderland, Southampton get relegated, and we pick up a very cheap alternative 28-year-old who can give us a few years in James Ward-Prowse.
Wow. Okay, so anybody in chat, so if you had 42nd minute, right around 10, 11 seconds for the James Ward-Prowse bingo, congrats. You've just won a Across the Pond hoodie, which we are going to be bringing soon. So congrats to number 42, if you had the 42nd minute as on your James Ward-Prowse bingo sheet. Twins Ball Daily had 41. Oh, so close, mate. It was 42. Anyways, James Ward-Prowse, that actually takes us into our next segment. Wonderful segue, Abby. Wonderful segue. Basement bargains. Some intriguing relegated.
So you wouldn't do that deal then?
Well, let me get into it, Abby. I've prepared an
yes or no. It's not
slide.
really a mathematical question here.
You got to use your brain. I've prepared a slide for it. So if you would let me get through the slide, I'd give you an answer. So there's some intriguing relegation options. I mean, nothing's been decided yet, but as things stand, Leicester are in 18th. Southampton, I believe, are in 19th or 20th.
Southampton are gone. Southampton are done.
Leeds are in. I mean, never say never. Actually, is it mathematical? I actually don't know. What I do know, this was brought to my attention by Moby, of course, on Twitter, the ever watchful eye. Southampton's owner has some financial issues. He's leveraged some money, aka, long story short, he needs to offload some players this summer. So Romeo Lavia is a guy who's been concretely linked by numerous reliable sources, both foreign and domestic. James Ward-Prowse is, of course, on that team as well. And to answer your question, Abby, no, I do not want James Ward-Prowse. Leicester have many Premier League quality players as well. Harvey Barnes, we've both been big fans of Harvey Barnes. The Athletic has said in recent years that Klopp is a fan of Harvey Barnes as well.
Yeah, Klopp's a fan.
Yeah, Tielemans will be available on a free. I feel like he's had one foot out the door at Leicester for about 3 years now. Leeds will also, for a multitude of reasons, feel they should offload some salaries. Tyler Adams, Brendan Aronson. I'm not just naming the Americans because American. I'm just naming their young talent.
I've been left disappointed with Brendan Aronson. I know it's his first season, but I would have expected a little bit more goals and assists from him. But
what I will say is that all of the various managers who have managed Leeds during his time there seem to have rated him. They like him. Tyler Adams, I think, would be a great signing for a host of Premier League teams. I do like Harvey Barnes. Do Liverpool need another winger? That's a bit up for debate. Another left winger. It's a bit up for debate. I don't know about that. Tielemans on a free. Tielemans is polarizing.
That deal, just on that Tielemans stuff, I think that deal becomes very appealing to the club. 25.
I 100. No. Here's the thing, Avi. Let me get into it. He's not in my top 5 list of midfielders I want at the club. But if the club feel they need a certain amount, and they want to feel that they could go bigger on MacAllister, big on Ugarte, Barella, and they just need numbers, you get that Premier League experience. You get a guy who has a lot of technical ability. So I respect that about it. That's his entire game is technical ability. He's not really the profile I'm in love with. But like you said, Avi, if we're just trying to make it make sense and we're trying to get some useful squad options, I do think you could put Tielemans fairly, regardless of how you feel about him as individually, as a useful player for Liverpool. Is that fair to say? For free, he could end up being a useful player?
I think he can become a more than useful player. The only thing I worry about is the mileage on his legs. I think he's played some astronomical amount of games at the age of 25. But yeah, I do think it's an appealing signing for a free. And if you're looking at, because I want 4 midfielders, and if he's part of a 4 with the first 3 like big signings that we need, Tielemans, he's not a bad player. And Klopp, would coach him to be a better player. Hopefully, somehow develop a engine on him, because he does start blowing out of his backside after 50, 60 minutes. I think it's appealing. I think there's loads of options this season. And the teams that probably go down, there's so many that we can pick off. Okay, Southampton, Romeo Lavia, we liked him at Man City. He was a player that we liked him. And I tweeted a year ago, to this day, I said, don't be surprised. I think May and June, when he saw it a sign for Southampton, I said, don't be surprised if we go in for him next season. And it does seem that, he's a player that's interesting us. Harvey Barnes, I think he's just not limited to that left side of a front 3. I think he can play on the right as well. Pace galore.
He's played through the middle when Vardy hasn't been available.
I think we've got enough options. I think we're trying to figure that out for next season.
Yeah.
I just want to bring up a comment from Kieran Thorne. And he's got to stop, because he's an absolute shamble of a comment. Harvey Barnes could be our Genie Wijnaldum. I swear by that. You keep swearing by that. No chance in the midfield 3. No way.
No. What he's saying.
Versatility, maybe yes.
No. What, Avi, you're missing the point. What he's saying, and I'm 100% sure he means it like this, is a guy from a relegation team.
He doesn't
by
mean
the top clubs.
No, he doesn't mean that. I know.
Yes, he does.
No, he doesn't.
No, he's meaning a guy from a good player in a relegation team that could take a next step, and he's around the same age. Kieran, don't worry. I totally see you.
Meant.
I totally see you.
I'll deal
even
with
if that's not what you meant. You just need to save my ass right now.
Hey, look, people agree. People are agreeing with the JWP.
Okay, you have conveniently ignored the 20 people who have said please no to James Ward-Prowse. Should I pull up all the negative James Ward-Prowse comments? Do you want me to do that? Because you're just cherry picking through the ones that agree with your weird agenda.
How many? Okay, name me 3 players from Leeds, Southampton, and say Leicester go down. Just name me 3 players that you would take from any of those clubs. One of each, or if you want to take 3 from Southampton, you can, or whatever.
I'm gonna take one of each. All right. I'm taking Romeo Lavia from Southampton. I'm taking Tyler Adams from Leeds. And I think I do Tielemans on a free.
Fair enough.
Because I don't, as much as I like Harvey Barnes, I just where and when is he going to play? You know what I mean? It's just, if we hadn't gotten Luis Diaz, then maybe, but it's just like, where and when is he going to play? Because, it's going to be a struggle to appease all of our current top tier attacking talent next season. Here's the thing. On James Ward-Prowse, I don't entertain him seriously as an option. But what's so funny is Sir Alex famously said, what did he say about Charlie Adams? Charlie Adams' corners are worth $10 million a year.
His left foot. I think his left foot is worth.
I think he was talking about set pieces. James Ward-Prowse is much better at set pieces than Charlie Adams ever was. How much are James Ward-Prowse set pieces worth in the Premier League, Avi? How much?
He scores what? He's got what, 10 for the season in free kicks and penalties?
The better question is how much, like, per week, like a wage, is James Ward-Prowse worth for his set piece delivery? This is an interesting question, and I'm being half serious right now.
150 a week.
100 in chat. In terms of weekly wage, we're not going to do transfer fee because I think it's less It's less indicative of what we're talking about. How much per week are James Ward-Prowse set pieces worth? Let us know. We want to get a gauge. Abby says 150. That feels a bit steep.
That's James. This ain't a bad shot. Salus, who's a very good defender, man. Very underrated. James
Sally Sue and Bella Kotchap are decent.
But no, Bella Kotchap is injury prone already. He went off last week as well with an injury. No, but James Justin, I don't know how he's recovered from the ACL. He hasn't been that same sort of player, but that's not bad. That's not a bad 3. Dewsbury Hall from Mohamed Kibriya, Evan.
Good player, but I just
scored against us this season.
I just don't think the ceiling is there.
Matters,
good player though.
Matters.
Good, like James. Ooh, here's the other one. I'm not paying all that money for James Madison.
Who's KWP? Was that a spelling mistake?
That's Kyle Walker-Peters.
No, not for me. Livramento, he hasn't even played
this season. Livramento has a higher ceiling.
Yeah, but he hasn't played this season. Can't take a risk.
He's been hurt
on another coach.
Here's the thing. I would have thought there would have been more Tyler Adams love in the chat. A guy who has played very well in midfield for club and country, and he can play right back. We need some right back cover. James Ward-Prowse is the greatest set piece taker in Premier League history, easily by a mile. It's like not close.
It's an interesting thing. I would take Harvey Barnes.
But like, where and when is he going to play? Because Luis Diaz is better than Harvey Barnes.
Yeah, but I don't like Jota on the left. I don't like Nunes on the left. So I'd put
Luis Diaz, our current left winger, is better than this guy.
Yes, I get that. But Luis Diaz can't play 50, 60 games every season either. He needs a break. Harvey Barnes.
But my point is that there's players already at the club who can play left wing, albeit not naturally, not fluidly. But if we're trying to appease Gakpo, Nunez, and Jota, guys who all think they should be starting.
I like Harvey Barnes. If a deal is 15,
I like him too, but it's just not realistic, mate. It's just not realistic. Like I just don't see it. That's why Tielemans for free makes a lot of sense. James Madison makes more sense than Harvey Barnes.
No, he's injury prone. That doesn't make sense at all. We don't need a crop. I don't want to go for
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Abby.
That's
what I'm saying, Abby. Harvey Barnes makes such little sense for us that James Madison makes more sense.
I think Barnes can
neither make much sense.
I think Barnes can play in more than one position. I don't think he's just a left winger. He can play on the right. You said he's played centrally at times for Leicester.
He has played centrally, but then there you go. We have central options as well. I just don't think there's room for Harvey Barnes. Harvey Barnes, I like you.
See, I told you, Kieran Thorne plays LCM in that new formation.
Kieran, I was trying to save you.
Stop. Please just stop, Kieran. But you know what? We never expected Genie to be
a ridiculous midfielder,
so he could be right.
What a ridiculous thing to say. Tyler Adams is better than Jordan Henderson, please. And here's the thing. I don't even stand American players like that. I don't care about the American national team at all. I don't. I'm not.
Yeah.
I actually don't. And so I'm not some sort of like simp for them. But Tyler Adams has been a very good player for a pretty bad
I might just
team.
save this. You just never know. You just never know. I get the Genie stuff. I get the Genie comparison. I do get it, but I don't know.
Okay, chat. Is there anyone we haven't talked about from Southampton? We've talked about Livramento, Walker-Peters.
Lavia, what's his ceiling? What's Lavia's ceiling? 50 million? Would you spend that much on a 19?
Oh, for how much? 50? I would spend a max of 40 on Romeo Lavia because they're not in a position to demand 50, in my opinion. But again, 60 million is the new 40. 40 is the new 20. This is what the market is. Enzo Fernandez went for, 100 plus. I think what we can absolutely attribute Dortmund's initial negotiation position on Jude. I think we can attribute a lot of that to the Enzo price. Them asking for 140 plus add-ons. Had Enzo not gone to Chelsea mid-season for that money, I think absolutely we would at least still be in conversations. Chaleta Char, guys, I do not know how to say this name.
Kletekar.
How to say it?
Kletekar, not
no,
Chaleta.
But I've heard.
Chaleta. There's no CH there. It's Kletekar.
I've heard it pronounced so many different ways by like cultured people, more cultured than me, like bilingual people.
Kletekar. There's a funny story about this. It's a true story as well. He was actually left hanging at the Marseille airport because he thought he would get his move to Liverpool, and we didn't go in for him. The same January that we
succeeded.
Ozan Kabak, and Ben Davis.
Oh God,
So,
yeah, I remember the Coletta Carr thing. I remember James Pierce talking about it. I mean, guys, I think we've talked about everyone. You know, I'm taking Lavia, Tielemans, and Adams. That's a banger. Speaking of Leicester, Avi, we play Leicester soon. Leicester desperate for 3 points. They currently sit 18th, and a win would take them out of the danger zone.
relegation zone.
The relegation zone, the danger zone. Everton are in 17th with 32 points. Leicester are in 18th with 30. Leeds also have 30 points. They're in 19th. Southampton have 24 points in 20th. So everything to play for still for City and Leeds United. Leicester City, that is. So a win maintains our own late Champions League push. We basically have to be flawless to even consider it. Leicester's last 5 results is a loss, a win, 2 draws, and another loss. We obviously have won a bunch of games on the bounce, but not overly convincingly. We are, of course, playing away. Abby, what are your thoughts on this game? Do you think, is this going to be a walk in the park, or are Leicester going to show like prime AC Milan levels of revitalization?
We've got to take him to the sword on Monday. I remember last year's fixture away from home, and they beat us 1-0. Salah missed a penalty. Such a crucial game as well, and effectively that cost us sort of the league. We've got to beat them, put them to the sword. Dean Smith is a little bit of a thorn, though. He's had relatively good success against us with the teams that he's managed, Villa especially. So we need to go out there and just win, regardless of the results. I know Wolves have got United tomorrow, Newcastle, and the early kickoff tomorrow with Leeds. So dependent on if they both win, we've got to just keep winning and see where it takes us. But I think there's going to be a little bit of a hiccup tomorrow.
Well, we've had hiccups even in this winning run. I don't think we've won any of those last 5 games by a margin greater than a goal. Of course, we required such dramatics against Spurs, and we've definitely ridden our luck. What I will say about our late Champions League push, I'm pretty relaxed about it. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I do think it's gone on longer than I thought it would. Our Champions League chances, like United obviously losing in Brighton, so dramatically, and then Newcastle losing to Arsenal. The results that we needed to go our way have gone our way longer than I thought they would be going to. I thought our luck would have run out by now. So I do think it's fun. At the very, my expectations are very, very low. At the very least, I do think it gives our games a fun edge. Our remaining 3 games without them bearing the weight of the world. It's not like we're taking a title race to the final day, as much as I wish we were. At the same time, it's nice not to be stressed out about it. But Leicester, I think, could be a tricky bag. That's a mixed bag of results. It's largely not good enough, but they obviously are a bit too good to go down. Though that cliche will be put to the test, obviously. What I will say about our current position is, at the very least, I do like to see that we've created a bit of a buffer between ourselves and the teams behind us. It's no longer in Brighton's hands. It used to be we had to root against Newcastle, United, and Brighton. Now and Spurs. Now Brighton and Spurs are officially behind us. It is within our own destiny to finish with more points than them. So I do think, although Europa League football isn't glamorous or whatever, I do think if people want the size of the transfer window they want, we will need some sort of European football, because there's no way Klopp's buying 4 midfielders without a midweek game. You know what I mean? There's just absolutely zero chance of that happening. If we miss out on all forms of European football, then you're not getting 4 midfielders. I'd say you'd be lucky to get 3. So I embrace the Europa League for whatever it may bring for us next season. At the very least, it allows us to watch more games. I like watching more games, Avi, for selfish purposes. Also, if we're trying to bet in young talent and offer game time to guys like Elliott and Carvalho and Calvin Ramsey, should he return next season, then absolutely, a weekly trip to the depths of Eastern Europe might not be the worst thing. But, it's nice to still be in with a shout. Long story short.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you know me, I wasn't keen on Europa League football, but you made sense a week ago when you said more football games, more opportunities to see the youngsters, and they get to get game time like the likes of Calvin Ramsey that you've mentioned, and he can rotate more. I just don't like the Thursday to Sunday rotation. I don't like that schedule because the team that plays Sunday is usually playing catch up to the league leaders, and I truly do believe that we'll be back next season, and we will mount a title challenge alongside Arsenal and Man City. But I get it. More games, more fun for us, more TV for us, more, we get to see our team more as well, like, twice, 3 times a week. Leicester, we've just got to win, Evan. I think we'll comfortably win as well. I think this game won't be as close for as the last of the previous 4 or 5 that we've played. We just got to keep this run going and see where it takes us. I think if we win our remaining 3, we end up on, someone wants to correct me, on 71 or 73 points. Usually that's enough. Usually that's enough for a top 4.
I think a few weeks ago, didn't we go through and we saw which we saw how many points on average it's taken to get 4th at the very least, and usually 68 to 75 points has been good enough. So this season will probably be no exception, hopefully. And hopefully Wolves, we have a very close relationship with Wolves this season. We've played them 4 times. As bad as they are, I do think that they present a banana skin for Manchester United.
That was that's what I was going to end the show with. Do you envision tomorrow, Big Sam? We need a favor from Fat Sam tomorrow for Leeds. I think they'll be up for it at 12:30 kickoff. Newcastle traveling. It's going to be tough for them. And then you've got Wolves United. Can you see a hiccup in both games, or realistically, what's your prediction?
I do think Newcastle will get over the line. I think their defense and their goal difference is ultimately too good for them to miss out on.
I'm talking about tomorrow more, not what you're envisioning. What's going to happen? I'm talking about tomorrow
with Leeds. I don't envision, or I don't believe in new manager bounce. If I'm being honest, I don't think it's actually a thing. But if it ever was going to be a thing, it was going to be for Big Sam and Leeds United. Can he do the ultimate rescue job? I mean, this is the quintessential Big Sam experience. You're 19th with 3 games left, and you need to outperform the 2 teams ahead of you. So I think this will be a legacy moment for Sam Allardyce and what his entire brand is. I do think that could be tough, but I do think if there is going to be one team that is going to fumble the bag, as the kids would say, and hand us a Champions League spot, it's going to be United. And I do think Wolves are more likely to do us a favor.
What's your prediction for both games?
I think Newcastle will take care of Leeds 2-0, and I think Wolves will beat Manchester United 1-0.
Away from home at Old Trafford. I don't think Ten Hag's team are, I think, unbeaten at home. You truly believe Wolves will take something tomorrow?
At the very least, I think they're leaving with a point.
Wow. I've gone opposite. I think Leeds will win tomorrow. I think it'll be 2-1 or a 1-0. And I think it'll be a draw tomorrow for United Wolves.
Wow.
It'll be very close. I want to, people are mentioning super chats. We haven't forgot them. We did star them. One from Messi FC. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for tuning in. We might not get a DM or a centre back, in my opinion. Then we're falling ourselves short, Evan.
I do think we need both. I just think, like I said, not to be overly pessimistic, but I do think people need to be mentally prepared for whatever this transfer window will be. It'll be less than they think it should be. I think that's always been the experience these last few years.
Another one from Ash, who always contributes. Thank you. Any whispers on the investment side of things? Not from my end. Nothing else from my end. Just wait and see, and hopefully we get the investment quicker than rather than later. Because
I think the investment thing is it's hard to just for those things to be leaked. Obviously with transfers, there's all sorts of interests that could be furthered by agents and clubs by leaking things. When it comes to like investment in this high level like white collar stuff, I just think it's hard for information to get leaked out.
And the final super chat again from Ash. Thank you so much. Quick mention of top talent, Jarell Konsa. This is not my burner, by the way. signing a long-term deal. Kid has it all. Excited to see how he develops. 100%. Although since he's been back from his suspension, he hasn't been great, but he's definitely a talent. I've likened him to Rio Ferdinand. I think this kid can go all the way, but he needs another loan. I think a championship loan next season would be brilliant for the lad. Any thoughts on Jarrell Quansah, Evan? Have you seen any snippets?
He only exists in my mind because you've talked about him before.
Got it. Fair enough. Anything else, Evan? It's been nice to do 2 shows, not 3. Bounce back to back. Hopefully next Friday we're scheduled to do 1. It's been good. We've had 100 people in the likes. Make sure, guys, we have liked the stream at least. You know, you might not
absolutely.
like me or Evan. I don't know. It's hard to dislike. I know it's very hard to like Evan, but you know, I'm here. The chip is here.
No, I'd say it's the other way around. I think you hurt our like.
You think too much.
You hurt our engagement rate when you talk about James Ward-Prowse so much. But on a serious note, guys, I've been blown away with how many of you have tuned in today. You know, around 95 to 100 people at most. That's great. Please keep it up. We're going to be doing these much more consistently. 2 in a row is a bit of an achievement for us. We'll be making it 3 in a row next week. I'll be holding Abby to that. And yeah, Abby, any last thoughts before we sign off?
There's been a demand, Evan, for your services. And it's the only services that I feel that you're useful at, really. We need a draft on this show. Obviously, once the season's over, can you please do a draft on a Friday? We will have 2 extra guests on the panel with us. I'm hoping that's the boys that I do the show with on Sunday. The boys that own the channel, but don't. The boys that own the channel, yeah, I'm doing more content creating for them on the channel. Asim and Chin. So a draft would be great, Evan, after the season's over. I know you're a busy man, but everyone just loves your drafts. You are the number 1 guy when it comes to that on all platforms of football.
Guys, it's the nicest thing he's ever said about me.
Yeah, that's true.
I hope we're clipping this up because it's the nicest thing we've.
The only thing that I'll fucking say about you.
Okay, yeah. Thanks a lot. Anyways, folks, thank you for tuning in. Let's get one last push for the likes. It's been a great conversation. Hopefully, we will have even more Alexis Mac Allister and Manuel Ugarte related things to talk about this time next week. Until then, it has been Evan, Sawkurgod, Abby, Blue Chip LFC. We are signing off.